Well, listen, I told you a couple weeks ago about something that was going to happen today, and it is going to happen today. A lot of you have been asking how we as a church are participating and serving and helping what's going on in Ukraine, and what are some ways that you could get involved. We made you aware of a link that you could give to, the 100% of which we'd give to a ministry that we're going to share about that we have been partnering with for many years, called Mission 823, easy for me to say. So I want you to do me a favor. I'm going to invite up to join me up here Sean Sullivan, who is the founder and president of Mission 823, a part of our church family for many years. I've actually been to Ukraine with Sean and to see all that they do here. So if you would give a big welcome to Sean Sullivan this morning. Hey, brother. Good to see you, man. So you've been busy.
Yes, sir. Busier than...
It's on, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, busier than I've ever been in my entire life, even when I was chasing Russians under the water in Southeast Asia.
He was in the Navy at one point, a submarine guy, if you didn't pick up on that.
Yeah, been extremely busy.
Yes.
18, 20 hours a day. We're working in 3 different time zones with some of our support teams. And so Ukraine is 6 hours ahead, and then other places around the world, Somalia and Afghanistan and stuff like that, redundant communication places. So we're running operations around the clock to try to help as many people as possible.
So tell us a little about that. So you were telling me the other day, obviously, tell us first of all, for those that don't know, what Mission 823 was founded to serve in Ukraine.
Sure. Mission 823 is a 501c3 nonprofit that came out of 18 years of service in Ukraine for underprivileged, at-risk, and traumatized children. We've been working with orphans, refugees from the 8-year-long war in Ukraine, poverty-stricken kids with social services and local church groups, working with the federal government and with the Cyber Police, National Police of Ukraine to combat human trafficking, and then abused and neglected kids and homeless children. We build and maintain and support family homes for adoptive parents with guardianship and conduct youth camps for traumatized children, not church camps, but for traumatized kiddos, and provide a lot of humanitarian aid for people all over the country.
So when I was there with you in 2016, you said something that I don't think a lot of people were aware of as much. When we were there were already, even though war was not happening there as it is right now, there was a war going on with Russia and Ukraine in 2016, even when I was there with you.
That's right. The escalation leading up to the war that most of the world wasn't even aware of until a month ago. But that war has been going on for 8 years. That started in late 2013, early 2014, when we were there for the Maidan Revolution. And Russia occupied Crimea and then immediately began to cross the border into the Donbass region in the east. And that's been ongoing for 8 years now. More landmines in Ukraine than any other place in the world now. And every single day, mortar, rocket, artillery, snipers, and just the rest of the world was not aware of that.
So when I was there, we spent a lot of time with all that you were doing with children's homes, the family homes, visiting orphanages, as well as the camp on the western end of Ukraine with you. But overnight, your ministry has changed drastically. So talk a little about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, basically, I was there just a month ago, and under those conditions where there was a limited war theater, we were making a video just appealing for support. I was standing in downtown Kyiv in front of St. Michael's Church and made a video. You can find it on our website and on YouTube. But just a few days later, I came home and bombing started dropping in all over the country. So our ministry has transformed itself, obviously out of necessity, from basic care for needy children to emergency crisis response to people all over the country. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people are under fire right now.
So I saw some video with some footage we had showing just a minute ago, which was from actually an event just Friday, right? Some supplies that were brought in by Winn-Dixie, is that right? That were donated a lot of supplies that you're in the process of getting over there. So talk a little about what you're doing right now.
Basically in the last 30 days, our teams and our partners and our staff have been able to evacuate more than 12,000 people from conflict areas to safety either in the West or transitioning through the border into Europe. We're running 3 tour buses 24/7 out of central Ukraine. That's sponsored by folks like you that are helping us to move people to safety. We also purchased 3 brand new vehicles, well, used vehicles, to try to allow our drivers and our staff members to go and pick up individuals that are in trouble. We were able to purchase 15,000 of these tiny little filters. These provide about 200 gallons of clean, pure water every single day. The water systems are all broken down in these conflict areas. There's no infrastructure. So this first load that's on a truck now on its way to Chicago is going to provide about 3 million gallons of fresh water every single day. We need as many of these as we can get. And then these med kits. This is not the first aid kit with Band-Aids and Tylenol. This is a professional level military grade med kit like you would find hanging in the ceiling of a Humvee in Afghanistan. It's an EMT corpsman military medic kit, and we've got 235 of those going for the most part to the Ministry of Health, made a partnership with the federal government of Ukraine, and they're going to distribute those nationwide, and then we'll have a number of them for distribution as well.
Which is an interesting way that God has positioned your ministry before this broke out, because you had some great connections with the government. I know that you were working with very directly. One of the gentlemen, and I'm going to blank on his name, we actually had here and interviewed and shared a few years ago, Nikolai, which is allowing you also to connect even better, as well as, I know one of the questions I've had people ask me, how are they getting things in and out? So I know you can't really share exactly how you're getting things in and out, because it's, but share a little about
it's
that.
sensitive. We'll just say that it's sensitive information, and the reason why we can't really share where we're working exactly and who's doing that is because enemy troops are intentionally targeting not only civilians, but especially looking for aid workers, which would be our classification. And so as close as the border of Poland, you know, there have been attacks on aid workers. And so we're working with specialized logistics and command support groups. We'll say that. These are Christian men and Christian organizations who have partnered with other contractors to help us to effect these rescues all over the country. And they're very, very good at what they do. And they've come alongside us to support us and help on as many people as possible.
You told me last week, to date, you have been able to facilitate the evacuation of how many people?
About 12,000. It's a little more than that now, but about 12,000 people. We're hosting 50 to 60 people at our 2 facilities.
You can applaud that.
Our facilities at our bases in the West, where you were, is hosting constantly 50 to 60 people. Faith House is now open. We accelerated the construction of Faith House just because we needed more space.
Which was a family home that was under construction, not yet complete, that when this happened, they expedited completing this house to the point it could house refugees right now.
Right, and so there's not enough room for 3 million people in our home, obviously. And so we've partnered with other ministries in central Ukraine and in western Ukraine. So we're supporting, with your help, with your assistance, supporting the daily lives of 5 other refugee centers, as well as distributing humanitarian aid like what Winn-Dixie just delivered.
That's awesome. Now, I saw on the news, I think I mentioned this to you when we were talking this week, a report that UNICEF, I guess this last week, said that there's up to 4 million Ukrainian children that have been displaced in one way or another, not necessarily, you know, refugees across the border yet, but that have been displaced, which is a mind-boggling number to me. But it also goes back to, you sometimes wonder, well, what kind of difference can you make? We can't rescue 4 million people, right? But you can serve somebody.
You certainly can, and we know the names of those somebodies. You know, the important thing, and I've been doing this for a very long time, and it can get extremely overwhelming, especially when you're talking about 600,000 children prior to this that were displaced by the ongoing war, but then the 300,000 plus children that were involved in human trafficking in Ukraine and that fight. So if you look at that really dark side, it can depress you and you can just walk away and quit. But my driving force is my calling from God to give my life for this, and the names and the faces of the people that we know that we've made a difference in, like Valentina. She's a lady up in northeast of Kyiv, and my job with this logistics team, we'll call them that, is to, because I'm the only Russian speaker for this team in Florida, is to call these individuals that have reached out for help and personally walk through their information. How much food do you have? How many troops are present? You know, literally getting human intelligence from the ground to help them to understand there's somebody that cares for you. We're working to try to help you. You know, Valentina said, I have no blood pressure medication left, and my food ran out 3 days ago, and there's a tank outside my house. And so I got all that information, passed it along to the logistics team, and Valentina said, and Sinochik, like my little son, when we get done with this, you're coming over to have tea with me. And that's one of 100 stories that literally just makes me flood my computer with tears. I have to go get a new one. I think I broke it. Because the people are suffering, but they're strong, and they believe in God, and they're unified, and they want to be free. And stories like that are what help us and encourage us to keep going.
When I was there, I was overwhelmed by just how kind and a peaceful people of Ukraine are when we were there. One final story I want to ask you share with me this last week, because I also want to try and help put a personal face to this for all of us, because it's, again, 4 million, however many million, it's a big number, but it's individual lives. You were sharing last week in Texas, and you had gotten a phone call about helping to rescue somebody's mother, I believe it was, right? Tell that story for everybody.
In the middle of all of this, you know, we're helping a lot of people. God's allowed us to be able to do that. It's a great privilege, great honor. It's heartbreaking, but a privilege at the same time. But a pastor of a large church in Texas, in the DFW area, called me. They've been supporting us for a little over 20 years. And he said, Sean, I've got a problem. I have a member who has a Ukrainian background. She's born and raised in Ukraine. But her mother is trapped in a city that's adjacent to the border of Russia in eastern Ukraine. And we need to try to get her out. So this is a large donor. He's the guy that bought the camp where you were. So I said, yes, sir, anything that we can do. So we began to build kind of a relationship with her, got her contact information, we're talking to her, and we're able to get her on a train, and this is a miraculous thing. This is kind of like a Corrie ten Boom kind of a story. It's just an amazing thing. This 72-year-old woman walked with her bag in her hand past Russian soldiers and past Russian trucks with mounted belt-fed guns, and she got on a train by herself and made it all the way to Western Ukraine, where we met her, and we were able to transport her to the border, and and then we transferred her across the border into Europe, and she sent me a picture sitting with our drivers, our staff from Mission 823, sitting in the sunshine with her eyes closed and her head back, holding a cup of coffee. And she said, thank you, Jesus, for these people. And then the last picture, I didn't send it to you yet. I'll show you between services. Just got it. That daughter was in Texas. I saw her and met her on Sunday night, and then she said, I'm going in a couple of days. Well, she just sent me a picture, her and her mother sitting in Europe, wow, hugging with their faces smiling, looking at the camera, and so that family was reunited.
I know when you told me that story, he just returned from that church, and he says, I was sharing about rescuing her mother, and the daughter comes running up to you and hugging you and say, that was my mom that you saved. And I remember him telling me on the phone, he goes, I can't tell you how much I needed that encouragement that day, because it's been so discouraging in all the work that we've been doing. So Sean, first of all, man, I want to say thank you. I've known you for a long time, and I know your heart, and trust you with my last breath, man. I appreciate the work that you're doing over there, and the way that you've allowed God to use you. I know there were some tough days and things that were transitioning and happening before all this broke out. That now, as we were talking on the phone, looking back at all that God's been doing to prepare you to be able to do what you're doing right now so well. And so we want to pray for you and for all that's happening there. I also want to encourage you. You know, guys, one thing we don't know, if you're new to our church, you might not know this, but we don't ask and plead and beg and guilt for people to give here. But for this, I will. I don't hesitate to ask and to do that for things that are certainly like this. And you go to, see right there, it's churchsouthlake.com/Ukraine. It'll lead you straight to a link you can give to Ukraine. And also, just thank you for your continued normal generosity and giving, because when you give on a regular basis, this is one of the missions that we have partnered with and support and have given to over the years, a variety of different things. And so please, continue to give to that. And I'm going to pray. And again, just thank you. Our normal link to give will come up there. as well. If you become prepared to give, you can do all of that at the same place. So.
We've got some information out in the lobby too. I'll be out there if you have any questions. I know that we can't cover everything in here, so I'll be glad to take your questions. And there's some literature out there that tells you about what we're doing.
Yep. So please be praying for Sean. Be praying for Mission 823, as well as everybody in Ukraine. And can we do this? Could we just stand together and pray? Nothing more spiritual about standing, but it's certainly, in my mind, it's just a way of honoring and acknowledging God. You are the one